Welcome to A Second Helping with Allison Bartow, a wedding photography podcast with a focus on second shooting. This week's wedding featured a lead photographer with a positive COVID test, Broad Street surprisingly closed, we have a 9-minute ceremony, 5 videographers, and a premature petal cannon. Welcome back to another episode of Save, Delete, Dodge, and Burn, my wedding recap. So it is Saturday morning, July 1st, 9:05. I am headed into the city. We have one of Dave's weddings today. This is at the Lucy, and my family vacation actually started last night, but when Dave had asked about this date, I got really excited because I've never shot at the Lucy, so it's on my bucket list. So I said, absolutely. So 2 weeks ago, he sent me the timeline, and it is a classic city timeline where it's a bunch of different portrait spots in the city. Like, it feels like every 15 minutes, a different location. So it's action-packed. Because we're on the shuttle, it's fine. I would be so stressed out if I had to be driving from city location to city location like that. The logistics were squared away, and then Wednesday morning, Dave texted me that unfortunately he had COVID, and while he was nearing the end of the window, he felt terrible and he was getting nervous about just how he would feel on the day of. So we went back and forth, and he was able to contact and schedule Nathan Desch, who is the founder of Shoot With Me. He will be on an episode coming up. I had interviewed him the night before, and I really love his work. So turns out he will be shooting for Dave today. I will be shooting alongside Nathan. I'm really excited. It should be a great day. Big wedding party, 10 on each side. So I am currently headed down to park across the street from the venue, and then I'm going to see if I can drop my bags at the venue, the lighting stuff, so light stands and my lighting bag. And then I will Uber over to where the guys are doing their prep, which is actually the bride and groom's home. Then I'll be able to just tag along with them in the shuttle for the rest of the day. So that's the plan. I have prepaid for the parking, and I have already scheduled the Uber to pick me up at 11:30. So I'm hoping everything goes according to schedule. Without traffic, I should be there about an hour and 45 minutes before I need to leave. So that should give me time to try to get into the venue. If I can't, I'm gonna have to take my light stuff back to the car probably. So the weather right now, it's really overcast. So we had the Canadian wildfire smoke come back through, and our air quality, it hasn't been anything like it was last time. Our air quality rating is at like a 110, so it's like on the radar, but it's nothing like what we had before. The weather's supposed to get up to like 85 today, but it looks like it's going to be cloudy most of the day. So hopefully the humidity isn't terrible. But we're only outside for really a few hours of portraits. But that's it. So it should be a fun day. And then when I finish up tonight, I will drive directly down to the shore to meet up with my family for vacation. So I am looking forward to it. So I will be checking in. So it is 11:30. I am on my way to the shore. The wedding went really well. It was a hot one. So I got down to the city, and Waze had me like circling around, and I couldn't get to the parking garage that was right across from the hotel that I'd prepaid for. And I realized that they were setting up this big festival and that Broad Street was shut down. So I parked in a lot close, and then when I came out, I had to like walk up this like little alleyway, and the sidewalk was so narrow that I couldn't even carry my bags, and I come around, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to have to walk back here at night by myself with my camera bags at like, 11 o'clock at night. So got around to the hotel, and I went over to the front door of the Lucy, the venue, and it was locked. And so I panicked, not panicked, but I was like, oh, great. Like, my car's over in this other parking garage that I didn't want to park in, and now I can't put the lighting gear in here. I'm going to have to, like, run it all the way around back to the car, and then when we get back, I'm going to have to go over there to get it. And I had that, like, gut reaction that happens every now and then when you're like, F this noise, this is stupid, I don't know why I'm doing this, why am I here? But it passed. So then I was like, I know how places work. I went around the side of the building, and I could see that the door was, like, not closed all the way, and I opened it, and I was able to go in, back, like, by the employee entrance, and I was really nice, and I found someone to talk to, and she was nice enough to let me put my bag with my flashes and my light stand bag in the coat check room. And I also ran into a bride and groom that were doing their second tour there, and I was able to recommend Dave as their photographer. So I felt a lot better then. I went back to the hotel, and I was talking to the valet guy, and it turns out they actually use that garage to valet the cars. So it was a little convoluted, but he walked over with me, and what I had to do was pay to get the parking pass ticket that I had cleared out, and then so it could be, like, reparked through their valet system. So it was like $17 for like 30 minutes. But the good news was then it was, like, in the valet system. So at the end of the night, they would just bring me my car. Oh, and of course, because I always pick the wrong way, I realized that you can actually get to the garage by going down, like, much more of a main street instead of the way that I went, which was then up alleyways. But regardless, I just prefer at the end of the night to be as close to my car as possible. So that was all fantastic. I was able to go upstairs. I was like an hour before my Uber was scheduled to get there. So I was able to go to the bathroom. I met a nice employee. She gave me ice water. I charged up my phone. I touched base with Dave to let him know I was there. Nathan got there, so we were able to catch up real quick. And then I went outside to wait for my Uber, who got there early, but then of course he couldn't access the roads, so we had several phone calls back and forth with me walking up and down with my camera bag. And then he found me, I found him. We cruised on over to the bride and groom's place in Fishtown, which they have a really nice place. All the guys were there, and the groom's dad was there, and they were all really kind. A couple of them were dressed already. They were just kind of hanging out. They had just gotten there at, the one guy said like 11, so they weren't there much earlier than me, because, you know, guys don't have as much stuff to do. So everything went smoothly there. He'd already opened his gifts, which I have to make sure Dave knows. I took pictures of the gifts, but I don't have him opening the gifts. And then we got in the trolley and headed over to Rittenhouse Square, and it was packed. There's like farmers market going on, all sorts of activities. The trolley went back to get the girls, so we were able to do our groom's portraits with each of his groomsmen. So we knocked those out of the way while they were going to get the ladies. We were able to find a good spot for the bridal party formals. We had the first look, which looked pretty good. We were trying to get like even lighting, but not have people in the background. So I think the spot came out pretty good. There were 5 videographers there. 2 or 3 were videographers for the wedding, and then the balance of them were shooting behind the scenes stuff. So this was probably the most challenging videographer situation I've had with a wedding, just because there were so many. But we got portraits done. They looked good. Everyone was in a good, it was hot, so everyone started obviously complaining. The guys had, nice suits. They had the full vest, so it was shirt, vest, tie, jacket. They looked great, but they were hot. And we had a few spots to hit. We went from Rittenhouse over to the art museum, and we got some nice shots of the whole party there, and then just some individual bride and groom portraits of them. And then Nathan spotted, actually before we left Rittenhouse, he had spotted a few other good spots for portraits, so I think those are going to look really nice. And then we were ahead of schedule. I was shocked. I guess the girls at one point were half an hour behind because of maybe people being able to get to the hotel. But they were supposed to get there at 1:45 for the first look. It was 1:47 and they were there. So that was good. And then we moved very quickly through those formal portraits. We had like an hour slated at Rittenhouse, and I feel like it was 35 minutes. We moved pretty quickly through them and got everything. So we made up some time, and then everyone was pretty hot. Something I've never seen before, the one bridesmaid, I saw like a stain on her dress, and I was a little bit confused. And then I realized that what happened was she must have had a spray tan, and she was sweating the spray tan through her dress. So you could see the marks. It was like on the back and then under the armpits. So I don't think you're going to be able to see it from the front, but when she was walking, it caught my eye, and then I realized what it was. So, I mean, I was sweating like crazy, but I'm wearing all black and no one's really taking pictures of me. So it's not stressful for me. We went back to the venue and got some nice pictures. She wanted pictures on the bar, so we got nice shots there. And then they had about an hour. They did a quick dress rehearsal, but the ceremony was only scheduled to be 15 minutes, so they were able to like relax and cool down. We were able to set up our lights. The venue, Nathan and I, neither one of us had been there before, so we were getting the lay of the land, because it really is hard to tell when you're looking at pictures online of what the layout is. So that was nice. I liked it because there's staircases in like the front and the back, so you're able to like easily access. The flow is good. You don't get bottlenecked or stuck behind guests when they're being like funneled over to cocktail hour or into the reception space. It was the first time I had seen, they had the first 5 rows were regular height chairs, and then the rest were like stool height chairs. So that was interesting. And then the bride and groom got married up on a stage, and then the bridal party was down beneath them. Nathan had a conversation with the videographer about like the recessional, because none of them had a 70 to 200 lens. They all had wider lenses, so they were like right on top of them the whole time. So we came up with a game plan. Nathan was very proactive and kind of assertive about what he needed, so there was really good, clear communication on that. They had those lovely cylinder candles, and one of the groomsmen was on the phone with his girlfriend walking and just kicked one over, not seeing it, and then somebody else. So 2 got broken before the ceremony even started, so no one had really been drinking yet. The lights were still up. So the staff is used to it. They like quickly come out with a brand new one and sweep up all the glass and take the old one away. So we had that all figured out, and then it was crowded for shooting the ceremony because there were 5 video guys and me and Nathan, so that's 7 of us on the floor for a 15-minute ceremony. And they didn't have any static cameras, so none of them were on like the monopods with the little feet. Normally, I feel like when Dave and I are in some of those churches down in the city, they've got like 3 of them set up. These guys didn't have any, so everything was handheld, which meant they were also like just getting really close to everything. So Nathan had a really good idea for how I could light the bride with her parents on the stairway when they were coming down to walk her. So he helped me get that set up. We did some test shots of that, so I was able to get those, and I got like a wide shot of her going down the aisle. And then I ran up to the 2nd floor so I could get like a wide shot from up there. I came down and I tried to shoot some shots I could normally do, like on the side, and the videographer was right there, so his head was in my shot. So even when I was completely zoomed in on a really tight shot of the bride and groom, I still had his head in the frame. So I went back to the center aisle, and I was right next to Nathan, and I was like, this is going to be totally redundant. He doesn't need me next to him taking the same shots with the same 70 to 200. So I went back upstairs, and I just got wider shots of everything that's going on, and I went like left and right. So I'm hoping that was the best call for that, but it just was too congested with those guys in the shot. And the ceremony, I'll have to look at the timestamps. I don't think it was 15 minutes long. It was nice, but it was short and sweet. So we did that, and then we got the family portraits, like the extended family. We didn't get everybody, and the bride was like, you know what, we'll just get it during the reception, which always makes me a little bit nervous because it's just like one thing that hasn't been checked off the to-do list, but it's their wedding and their call. And Nathan was like, no problem. So we moved through that. Nathan was really great to shoot with. He was super professional. He knows what he's doing. He's really good at lighting, super great at direction. He's like clear, concise communication. He doesn't talk too much. So I think everyone knew exactly what he was telling them to do. And he was assertive. Not that they needed it, like they didn't need to be reprimanded. Like sometimes you have to like quiet a group down or like kind of scold them a little bit. They didn't need that. It was just, everything was like in control all day. I got along really great with the guys. They were super great at the end, like complimenting me and saying how great it was. They were really appreciative how we kept things moving along and quickly moved through stuff, which always makes me happy to hear. Bride and groom were really happy all day. Nobody was drunk. There was no like complaining about anything. We did the introductions. The biggest challenge was just having all these videographers everywhere. And I mean, individually, they were nice guys. There was one female, but it was just tough having them everywhere. So it was hot and sweaty of a day. The venue felt fantastic and nice and cool. I ended up I find the reception space hard to find locations for the light stands where they are out of the way of the guests, but are where you need them. So I ended up having one on either side of the stage and then doing a third one up on the second level aimed down, and then also using some on-camera flash bounced in addition to those three that were sort of triangulated. I think Nathan and I communicated really well. Like he would let me know, like for speeches, he had me focus on the speaker, he focused on the reactions, and then I really just tried to be cognizant of like moving around him. And I really had to pay attention because I wanted to stay out of his shot because I knew it was hard enough for him to get a clean shot with the videographers in the way. So the last thing he needs is for him to have a clear shot, and then I'm in it. So I just really tried to pay attention to that and also keep moving because I feel bad when I'm blocking the guest's view of whomever's speaking. We stayed pretty well on track. The venue manager, whoever, the day of coordinator, was Josephine. It was supposed to be Katie, but it ended up being Josephine. She was really, really sweet. It was her second time. She's been with the company for a while, but it was her second time at this venue. So she was just really nice. We went over the timeline. There were no conflicts. Everything was good. And again, with the shorter ceremony, we were able to make up more time again. They had an hour-and-a-half cocktail hour, which ended up being a little bit longer because the ceremony was shorter. So that was a while. A lot of really nice looking food. What did I do? We had to move the stands because they do pipe and drape on the side, either side of the ceremony site, and then all the tables are set behind it, so they're doing their room flip. So they're bringing down the pipe and drape, so then we had to like just kind of relocate our bags and our light stands to get them out of the way. So we did that, and then I swapped out some lenses and stuff, and then I was able to get some grip and grins, and I was able to get some bigger groups for grip and grins, so I hope that's good. And then they love dancing. The groom was having a great time. They both love music. They were really having a nice time. And yeah, we stayed on track. We were able to get those family shots. We moved so quickly through them. We just had the DJ announce them and everyone came right to the dance floor. So the timing worked out really well with where they were in dinner. So people hadn't scattered yet. They weren't like milling about outside or anything. So everyone was at their tables and they were had already been eating for a little bit. So it was good timing. And then as we were I think we were in like the final hour, we had them go over to do like a nice portrait on the stairway. We got the shot they wanted in front of the Lucy sign in the entry, and then we went out on Broad Street. And Broad Street on a Saturday night on 4th of July weekend, I mean, there was everything you can imagine. We had a street sweeper go by. I mean, we had everything, all the smells. It was a very immersive, interactive experience. But I commend Nathan. I mean, he had brought a softbox with him. He brought a tripod that I believe he brought solely to get the one shot that the bride wanted on Broad Street with the slow shutter speed to capture the trailing lights. And so he did several shots with that, and then I was holding the light. So what I could see from the back of his camera looked really good, but he was super prepared for it, which was really nice. And I love that, it's a lot to bring a tripod and lug that around just for one photo. They seemed happy. They never got like exasperated or frustrated when they were hot and we were like up on the art museum steps and, leaving the reception to get the shots. And we didn't take a super long time, which I think people always appreciate. But at the same time, once they've gotten through all the difficult stuff and they're partying and dancing and drinking and just having a good time, you always feel a little bit bad pulling from them from their reception, even though it's to get the photos that they wanted. So because the festival had then shut down, so we were able to like get back on Broad Street to get those photos. And that was it. I'm sure I am forgetting a lot of things because it was a long day, but it went really well. Everyone was in a good mood. There wasn't any drama that I saw, which is really impressive considering that the bridal party was 22 people. It really, normally you've got like one bad apple in there, but I didn't hear or see anything. They all seemed to be having a good time. It was a kid-free wedding, and it was funny because I guess the groom's two sisters, maybe at least one of them has kids, and they said they were kind of happy that they could just have like a night to have fun without having the kids there, which I kind of agree with. It's a lot when you've got kids there. Just they're tired, they're up all day, they're not getting the naps that they normally have, and it's just a lot for them. So everyone had a nice time, kid-free. There was one baby there that was really young, but she was fine. That was it. We had good meal. The videographers left before dinner, so there was like a whole bar full of food, like plates and plates of entrees. So we were able to have our pick. And again, the venue manager was super nice. Everybody that we came across was really nice there today. So that was it. I have no idea how many pictures I took. I tried to be mindful, and I know I was better in the beginning of the day than the latter part of the day when we got into like the speeches and the dancing. So we'll see, but I'll take a look at those. Nathan dropped off the memory cards to Dave, so he has those, and I think he's going to be happy with what Nathan shot. I was super impressed with him. I mean, it was what I expected, but it's also really nice, and I feel like he took care of the clients as if they were his own, which is what you want and which is what you would expect, but sometimes that's not always the case. So that was that. All right, I'm off to the shore.
Hi, I am back. I have reviewed the photos, and I took 1,940 photos over 10 and a half hours. So my average was only 185 an hour, which should be good. Dave should be happy with that. I think the lower number was we had a pretty big gap when we got back to the venue. They went upstairs to relax in the bridal suite, and then they did a dress rehearsal. So we were setting up lights and prepping, but that was a pretty big window of time. And then I was thinking about it, and for the formals where we were running around the city, I was shooting a little bit of, different angles, but I was also holding the light stands and running around a little bit more. So I feel like I didn't take as many photos then that I may have. And with the dancing at the reception, I tried to be a little bit more mindful of that. Other things with timing. So the ceremony was at the venue, and they had said it would be a 15 to 20 minute ceremony. And what I have learned is that if it is call it a private ceremony, a non-church ceremony, it's always going to be like half what they say it's going to be. And if it's in a church, it's going to go over by like 10 to 15%. So they said this would be a 15 to 20 minute ceremony. And I checked the timestamps, and it was a 9-minute ceremony. So what I had done was I started downstairs. I got them coming, the parents walking her down the stairs of the venue. And then I got the low wide shot of her going down the aisle and her father giving her away. And then I ran upstairs to get that other angle, to get the wide shot from up above and some zoomed in shots. And then I ran back downstairs to get some from that vantage point. And I was making sure I was, opposite of Nathan where he was shooting, and there were videographers, and I took a few photos, and there was videographer's head in the way. And I went over, and I was in the aisle with Nathan, and there's no point in me standing shoulder to shoulder shooting with him when there's the balcony upstairs. So I ran back upstairs, and I went through the photos. So during the 9-minute ceremony, I took 55 photos, and only 7 of them were downstairs because there just wasn't a clean shot. So hopefully those worked out, just that opposite angle. It seemed to be the right choice at the time because we had that as an opportunity, and there was so much coverage downstairs. So that being said, the things that went really well, I feel like I got some authentic moments in prep. The dad was there. He was engaged and nice and involved with all the guys. Grip and grins went well. The introductions went okay. They're always just such hit or miss because people start doing stuff before they're actually onto the dance floor. So just lighting them, they're either too far back and, they're all over the dance floor. So those went okay. The groom was dancing all night. So I feel like there were a lot of good dancing groom shots. I shot him a lot. There weren't too many guests. Normally there's like a handful of guests that just are really animated or super photogenic and are just, having a good time. These guys were having a good time, but there wasn't anyone that really jumped out. So I just tried to kind of shoot everybody, but I didn't really stick to anyone too much other than the groom. So I really tried to not overshoot. But at the same time, I still feel like you have to shoot a lot because there's so much just throughout the day. Movements, whether it's on the trolley and you're trying to get a shot and there's just limbs and people moving and, so I feel like you're always going to have so many tossaways that you do have to shoot enough rather than overshoot. As far as things that didn't go as well, during prep, they have a townhome, a row home. So it's like a straight through. So you've got windows in the front and windows in the back and then nothing on the sides. So the challenge there was if I was standing in the middle of the house shooting through the kitchen, the whole wall was windows. So they were backlit. So I really had to, crank up the ISO to bring the exposure up for their faces. And then if you moved around, you would have much nicer light on them, but that meant kind of squeezing behind them. So it wasn't as easy to kind of move around to get the best light. So that was challenging. And then he was doing his bow tie for forever. A tip I would give grooms is if you're going to wear a bow tie, practice before the wedding day. It always just seems so stressful for them that they're trying to tie it or there's someone who said they knew how to tie it and then they can't. And so there's some nice photos of that because I had so much time to shoot it. And, you've got him looking at the phone, trying to see, his the reverse camera, trying to see if he likes what it looks like. And they, kept working on it. But where he was standing, we were able to get some decent light for that. There was only one videographer there with me, and we worked pretty well together. The other thing that was weird was they mic'd him up. The video team mic'd him up right after I got there. And he was mic'd the entire day. So straight through when we left the reception at 10:30, he still had his mic pack on, which, I mean, I guess I get it, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, I feel like it would be uncomfortable. Maybe he forgot he had it on, but also I just feel like it's such like an intimate, special day that there might be times where you don't want to be mic'd. Most people aren't used to being recorded all day. We're not on reality television. So I just feel like such a intimate day, it might be weird to be mic'd all day. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe people do that more than I realize, but I felt like I saw people normally after the ceremony taking mics off of the couple. Other things that were challenging. So Rittenhouse Square, that ended up being a little bit easier than I anticipated. I feel like we were able to find some spots with decent backgrounds. We were able to just shoot enough so that if you had people walking in the background, there were enough breaks in the crowd that you would be able to get some shots without them. The first look, the way she was walking, it was really bright behind her, and then she was a little bit in shadow. So those are okay, but then some of them, as she got closer, I felt like she was a little bit underexposed. And then the other challenging part, they had the petal cannon, and I feel like that went off a little bit earlier than I was anticipating it. So I have a few shots of it. It wasn't maybe the ideal position. I wish I was moved over like a few more feet. And they didn't go like all the way over them. Like they kind of shot out and were just kind of above the bride and groom. They didn't like go all the way over. But I feel like that's one of those things where the execution never really lives up to like what people are expecting. So Nathan got it as well. So I have a few shots, and then he got some good shots. So that being said, cocktail hour, I think the grip and grins were good. I feel like I had a couple that were out of focus that I'm not really sure why. And then the challenging part about the space is the long area where the cocktail is happening is a wall of windows, similar to their house, a wall of windows. And then the other side is the balcony overlooking the space, but it's all, curtained off. So if you turn towards the curtains, you were able to expose and get like just a really nice grip and grin with a nice background. And then invariably you would have to get people on the other side. You're not going to move them, over to the other side of the room. So I'd have to make the adjustments in order to get them properly exposed. So that was tricky, just going back and forth from, one exposure to something very different, and then adjusting the flash power and all of that. But overall, I think that the grip and grins were good. I've been shooting several of those because it's still amazing how many people are blinking and just have things going on. And then there was one, I don't remember, this woman had like a whole plate of food, which normally I'm really aware of that. But I think as people were coming in, it ended up being a group of like a dozen people. So I just hadn't realized that was still in the frame. So I have to make sure I'm watching that because normally that's never there. Introductions. I have to keep shooting with a wider lens, I think, because it's just, if it's an 85, I feel like it's easier to miss them. And if it's a wider lens, you get more of the reaction from the crowd. I want to watch the cropping in camera. I'm finding that with the mirrorless, I think what I'm doing is the focus point when it locks on, I am moving the camera for the focus point. Like instead of trusting the camera that the focus point is going to stay where it is and getting the composition the way that I want it, I'm kind of adhering to where the focus point is. So I'm like moving, and I'm finding that I'm like cutting feet off a little bit, which, I never used to do. So I want to make sure that I'm watching that and communicating to the lead photographer. There were a couple photos that I need to make sure that the lead photographer, or not the lead photographer, but Dave, whose wedding it was, knows why I took certain photos. So there's like a picture of a Matchbox car, but it was actually the gift from the bride that he had opened before I got there. But when he goes through the photos, he's just going to see a picture of a Matchbox car. So I have to figure out like the best way to communicate that information, because it's kind of a lot of info at the end of the night to kind of dump. But I also feel like if I try to think of 8 million things to communicate, it's too much, and then that email never gets sent. So I just have to figure out how to hit the bullet points on that. The other thing I want to make sure I'm checking on when I'm shooting for someone else is how many like vendor shots that they want. I feel like I don't shoot very many of like the DJ or the band or like catering. And I just want to make sure I'm getting the right expectations, because some photographers want a lot of those because of the way that they network, and then they're sharing those photos with all of the vendors in hopes of getting referrals. Other photographers don't care as much about that. And there's one photographer that I shot for that once the formalities of the reception are taken care of and it's just party dancing, he goes off and actually culls a few photos and edits them down and creates a slideshow. So what I realized was, at that point, that's when I think a lot of the other photographers are getting vendor shots. So I need to be covering that for him. So that was something that I caught on to. So I need to be checking in on that. And then speeches, I think I can do a better job of seeing when I should darken down the background. There are some times where you want the guests exposed, but then in other times, if the background's not as good, I have to just darken that background down. I want to make sure I'm continuing to just shoot through the moments, because it's too easy to be like, oh, speech is over, and, you know, kind of turn and get ready for the next thing, instead of like making sure you're getting them going over and doing the hugs and, you know, those moments there, the small moments, and then the transitional moments that happen after that. And then I just have to make sure I'm adjusting the flash power and anticipating that. Again, like I'll be shooting manual flash power and everything's fine, and then I'll go to shoot something close up and I never adjust the flash until I shoot it, and then it's like way overexposed and I'm like, oh, obviously. So I need to just start recognizing that that's going to be the case and doing it ahead of time. Because again, I don't like to delete in camera, but I feel like an idiot when there's all these like test shots and overexposed shots that the lead photographer is going to have to call through. And then with the dancing, just for this wedding, I feel like the light stands needed to be higher. I think I had 9-foot light stands there. I put a third one up on the balcony aiming down, and I think that was my V1. In retrospect, I probably should have taken up one of the 80-200s to get the cross lighting. I feel like I had more shadows on the guests that were dancing than I normally have. I was still shooting on camera flash, but I don't like just on camera flash. I do like the dimensional light of the off camera flash, but that wasn't performing the way that I would have liked it. And Nathan was great. It was the first time I've worked with a photographer in person who has the flash on a monopod and is holding his own flash, you know, out to the side so that he's really controlling that off camera flash. So that was cool to see in action. And he really did a great job. I mean, he really, from my perspective, treated this wedding as though it were his own client. And then the other thing I did for the first time is I use Narrative Select to cull photos, and I go through all the photos from the wedding just to learn and see where I can improve. So with this one, it does a focus score and it ranks it from 1 to 10. So for this one, it had 59% of the photos were a 7 or higher focus score, and 38% were 8 or higher. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to just kind of take a look at those numbers to see, because I'm still dealing with the autofocus areas of the camera. So that's something I feel like it's a good measurable. I don't think that they have statistics. It would be kind of cool to be able to see what your statistics are on that. And it also does potential picks, unlikely picks, and undesirable picks. And I don't know what the math is that they use for that, because I feel like those numbers are pretty similar from time to time. So I'm going to keep taking a look at those. But overall, it was a pretty busy day, a hot day, but everyone was good. And the bride and groom, they seemed okay that, you know, Dave couldn't be there. I think that he was able to get a good replacement. So they seemed very happy. So that is obviously the biggest thing. And I know Dave was nervous because he really wanted to be there and was disappointed that he couldn't be there. So you just are hoping that everything works out the way that it would have normally. So if you've listened all the way through to here, it means you've made it to the end, and I really appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't already followed the podcast, please do. And I would love for you to give an honest rating and a review if you feel like it. So thank you so much, and tune in next time to A Second Helping with Allison Bartow.
Thank Thanks for listening to A Second Helping. Please like and subscribe.
Let's pack a bag and follow the sun. Kick off our shoes and have some fun. Get ready, get set, let's go. If we never go, we'll never know. 'Cause you and I, oh yeah, we could fly so high, so high. You and I won't let this moment pass us by, pass us by. I won't let this moment pass us by. I won't let this moment pass us by. So grab somebody, do-si-do, 'cause life's a dance floor, don't you know? Hey, there's electricity in the air, so come join the party if you dare. 'Cause you and I, oh yeah, we could fly so high, so high. This moment pass us by, pass us by. Won't let this moment pass us by. Won't let this moment pass us by. Won't let this moment pass us by. We could fly so